people can do good if we give them the opportunity to do so. This is just one example. Then I joined Islamic Banking Neon Cap, a lot more to learn. Then I joined CMB, a lot more to learn. Then I joined BFM. I've never done broadcast ever in my life, never trained in it, never thought of it, never dreamt about it. Abstract to look at it that way, because if you are a chartered accountant and you work at Deloitte, for instance, or EY, and your salary is 4,500 or 5,000, you still makan gaji, you know.
Yeah.
And you're still a corporate slave.
Yeah.
And I'm very familiar with the Big Four and any auditing firm. And I think today we're looking at statespeople or statesmen and stateswomen that they should aspire to be inspirational as well, because Malaysians really do look up to them to look for inspiration. So I think if we have more people like you asking these kind of thoughtful questions, you have to get the book and buy it. It's everywhere. It's at whatever Kinokuniya or whatever.
For happiness.
There is an equation for happiness, and this, he calls it the algebra of happiness.
Okay. Welcome to another episode of Life Confessions, and as usual, we have amazing guests who join us. Today is another person who we have so much to discover and also discuss about. CEO of Yayasan Peneraju with us, Ibrahim Sani.
Yes, hi Terry.
So good to see you.
We're technically still somewhat colleagues, as technically in Astro, but it's so much fun to see you again after so many years.
I agree, because you're also still currently a TV host at the same time.
Yeah. So we have a weekly show called The Economy on Niagawani, a sister show inside the Astro family. It's very highbrow. We talk about boring stuff like GDP and government debt and stuff like that.
So interesting and cerebral. Yeah.
Cerebral. Okay, that's a nice way of putting it, lah. But yes, but those kind of discussions are still needed, because we forget that new people are now entering the workforce. We're talking about Gen Zs are now taking up their first jobs. And we need to talk about national finances. We need to talk about how the economy works. So, it's worth noting that millennials are in their 40s. And Gen Zs are in the workforce, and in no time Gen Alphas are entering the workforce. So the conversation of this kind of highbrow economic stuff is still needed, even though we don't get much viewers. That's not the point. The point here is
that's the sad part, right? It's so important.
It is important.
So important that
and I don't blame the audience, because if it's the onus is up to people like us to educate, entertain, and inform. No matter how dry the subject is. It's not difficult. It's just dry. That's all.
Yeah. You need to take an interest in things, even though they may seem less than exciting, but that doesn't make them any less important.
Absolutely.
And that's the role that you are committed to.
But of course, the reason why I want to do this podcast is not just because of the caliber of this podcast, but because I want to see you, Terry.
I'm very excited to see you too, man. Yes. Always. Because the last time we spoke, we were talking about more on your personal life and how you manage that. Now, you've taken on another role since 2023, CEO of Yayasan Peneraju, and your LinkedIn notes describe you as part CEO, part cultural architect, and part digital strategist at Yayasan Peneraju. How do you balance those roles in practice, and which part keeps you up at night?
Okay, so the LinkedIn bio was written by ChatGPT version 5.
Right.
So let's clear the air. I'm using the paid version of ChatGPT. I think the $20 per month or something like that. And I was asking ChatGPT, please scour the internet on me. Right. And they said that based on the things that we've discovered on the internet, this is the thing that comes out, which I think is fun. That's why I put it there. But the reality is as such, where the copy that we read and see online right now, my estimation is more than half is written by AI. Right. Including press releases that companies are now issuing, mostly is written by AI. And this is scary, because the ethics that surround this whole AI writing of copy is not yet established. So we might want to talk about if a copy is written by AI, we better declare it. Right. So when we spoke to our ex-colleague Mediha, who now runs the content forum over at the Ministry of Communications, it's still at the self-declaration stage, where people might want to self-declare that the thing is written by AI or not.
Based on trust.
Based on trust, and I think that maybe I can start with myself. So I think I should write this copy is written by AI and all that. But to answer your question more directly, the life that I'm having now is fun. It's hectic, but it's also fulfilling need for me to continue to serve the community.
Right.
It's important that to note that at Yayasan Peneraju, what we do primarily is developing talents, and the mechanism surrounding on how we help talents, i.e., giving them the right training, the right certifications, and the kind of fulfillment the country needs. We need X amount of chartered accountants, X amount of data analysts, and so on.
Right.
Generally speaking, is also helping individuals uplift themselves to become not just value adders or adding value to the community or economy, making them value creators, i.e. they create fresh new ideas and value to the economy, and that is a calling that I am so privileged to have right now, and I feel honored to be working alongside my colleagues at Yayasan Peneraju and the Ministry of Economy or the EPU to doing this kind of work. It's really a nice effort to be done, and no matter how tired I get, I'm so pleased with myself because at least I believe that there are real lives that we are actually helping to elevate, and that is the greatest satisfaction that I can have right now.
Can you give us some examples of the people whom you've met who've been through the process and where they are now?
So there's this story about a talent, a Bumiputra non-Muslim Sabahan talent called Ellis. She comes from a very impoverished community.
Right.
There's poor, and then there's abject poverty, and then there's Ellis. So that's how poor she was. We took her under the old program called Peneraju Tunas. We gave her an excellent education, high school education, and because of the opportunity that she had during the high school period, she could obtain a scholarship to do her ACCA. And after 3 years of doing the AFIA, what we call the ACCA pathway, at 21 she finished university with a chartered status, no degree, but chartered status at ACCA. Immediately she worked in Big Four, and her salary at that point in time was 4,500 ringgit. And 4,000 after working 3 years, she became a full member of ACCA, and she worked 1 or 2 years, and then she disappeared off the map. And that's fine because as long as we ensure that she gets the right education, she gets the right opportunities, it's up to her to decide what she can do with the skills that she has obtained.
Right.
2 years ago, we discovered that she actually came back to a community in Sabah, and she is now working as a bookkeeper and an accountant for places of worship in her community.
Right.
She is actually a bookkeeper and an accountant for 3 churches, 2 mosques and 1 Gurdwara Sahib. And she's doing this pro bono. And the reason she can do this is because the economic sanctity of her house is secured. She is her husband is the one that is earning the keep, but she is now affecting change in her community through the skills that we have given.
Right.
And when I met her and I asked her why do you do this pro bono, she said, how else can I help my community? I'm already a chartered accountant. I can manage large company accounts, and I feel that this is my best way to serve the community. And the fact that she's agnostic about the communities that she's serving, it doesn't matter which religion or which religious houses and stuff like that. It just shows that people can do good if we give them the opportunity to do so. This is just one example. So I can give you 85,000 other stories, but these are just the real life examples that we can share that is really impactful. And I really appreciate the stories of all these talents and alumni that has actually come forward and tell their stories. So for 2026, we're going to be featuring a lot more of these stories, because there's one thing of me telling their stories, but there's another when they tell their own stories. So I believe that the nation needs to be inspired and the nation needs to be enlightened. And I think that if these talents come out and tell their own stories, I think they're going to inspire others to do the same.
Absolutely, because like I said, these are just 2 of a multitude of stories that you have, and the fact that this is the kind of work that Yayasan Peneraju is doing is amazing. And when you mention opportunity, it's interesting because people keep saying that the reason why many people are not pulling themselves out of their social status is because of opportunity, but they don't realize sometimes to reach and get to the opportunity requires travel. But what you do is you bring the opportunity to them instead, so it meets them where they are.
Yeah, and one of the greatest outreach programs that we have ever done since inception in 2012 at Yayasan Peneraju is the recent program that we did in Sabah. It's called Bah Upgrade, where we actually penetrated over 21 cities in Sabah, large cities like Lahad Datu and Kota Kinabalu, middling cities like Semporna and Keningau, and small cities like Pensiangan and Kunak. And we brought our programs to them because we believe that outreach, especially in states like Sabah, requires high activation cost. But no matter how high the activation cost for them to get the trainings and certifications needed from Yayasan Peneraju, the payoff is actually well founded. And no matter how high the activation cost is going to incur on us, cost meaning financial cost and non-financial cost, because we actually mobilize the entire Yayasan Peneraju over to Sabah, it means that we are also ensuring that our program is not just restricted to, Semenanjung, but to also penetrate the places that we are mandated to help, i.e. Sabah. So these kind of on-ground activation is actually needed, and the results are quite high. Sabah has the lowest enrollment across the state for Yayasan Peneraju, both in capita and per capita and in absolute numbers. Selangor, for instance, I'll give you an example. We have enrolled more than 10,000 talents from Selangor this year. KL, who has quite frankly a lesser population domicile, I'm not talking about people working KL, but people staying in KL, we have enrolled over 6,000 people in KL sahaja. But in Sabah, 400 total, absolute numbers in 2025. But through Bah Upgrade, we have enrolled over 1,200. And in a span of 2 to 3 weeks, or 3 weeks we call it about 18 days. In 18 days, we have enrolled over 1,200 people. This means what, if we go down on the ground, there are people that wants this opportunity, and we don't have to do a hard sell. They were waiting for folks like us to actually share our programs and our possibilities with them, because they are ready to take up the offer if we present it to them. And this is what I mean by going to the ground and activating it. The outreach. Another big program that we've done, again in our history, is what we call Jom Explore, where this is targeted towards, by the way, Bah Upgrade is targeted towards everyone, anybody above the age of 16 until no age limit. And the people that participated from Bah Upgrade came from people in their 50s, in their 60s. The oldest participant was a 69-year-old gentleman who wants to know what, basic Microsoft Office. And the cost is cheap. It's about $200-$300, So we're more than happy to underwrite that particular training for him. So this is the kind of people that we're working with in Sabah. But for Jom Explore, it's targeted towards post-SPM goers, our young Malaysians aged between 17 to 18.
Tertiary education.
And we're giving them a fast-track approach where if they take up this 4-year program with us, they can graduate with either an ICAEW chartered status or an ACCA chartered status. And in previous years, we enroll about 300 to 400 people per year. This year, we have enrolled more than 1,000 people through our Jom Explore. And again, same thing with the Bah Upgrade. We went to places like Miri, Bintulu, Kuching, Kota Baru, Kuantan, all these places, because we know that fantastic talents lie in these areas. We just need to activate our people on the ground.
Now, you've been CEO since 2023 of Yayasan Peneraju. In that time, tell us about maybe the single boldest decision that you've made, and in a way to measure your success. How would you describe that, or what would you say?
To leave permanent employment and to sign up under a contract employment. I'm telling you, that was the hardest decision.
A very personal decision.
It is a very personal decision because I'm divorced. That means I have an alimony to manage. I have 3 kids. One of them is a university going, and 2 is in high school. I have loans. I have debts. And while my debt servicing ratio is manageable, I would also need a continuous employment process. And that was the scary part. That was the only thing that I need to navigate and overcome. It's not the role of the CEO that I find daunting. This is because prior to my career in Astro, I had a 2-year career in BFM. But before I joined BFM, I was actually an investment banker at CIMB Investment. And working with, and I'm a chartered accountant, so working in accounts, working in finance, corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions, dealing with large, organizations, working with a lot of people, working with government, working with the private sector. All that is how I entered the workforce when I graduated from university.
Yeah.
That wasn't the scary part, because I do believe that Yayasan Peneraju, no matter how intricate it is, at the end of the day, it is about managing talents. And how do you manage talents? You manage the finance of the talents. That's fine. But that very personal decision on going for contract, that is the one that is scary lah. I mean, if I've been really honest about this,
and that's always what you are. You're always very, very honest. It's too honest, nothing less, and also passionate at the same time. I think to see this passion now being the driving force behind Yayasan Peneraju has a lot of people confident in not just you, but also in the process and what it stands for.
Definitely. Because look, when we work with a social element and you're trying to help people, it's really important if you are in it for the right reasons. If you join an organization that has a social element, like for instance a government-linked company or a foundation, which Yayasan Peneraju is both, you better be there because you want to help people. If you want to help yourself, you might not necessarily, number one, be happy in the work that you do, but number two, you might not find meaning in the work that you do. Now, the people at Yayasan Peneraju and my colleagues over at the EPU or the Ministry of Economy, I cannot help myself but feel humbled and privileged, because their desire to help the community, in my estimation, is far higher than my own desire to help the community. And they are willing to work long hours, to spend long traveling days, and to be away from their own families in order for them to achieve the objective of helping others. And because of this passion that I've never seen anywhere before, it really is bringing me down to earth, to be honest. Not to say that, when I was working in Astro or BFM or even in CIMB, people were not passionate about what they do. But let me be frank here. I have never seen a passionate banker in my life. I mean, if you have, please let me know and we'll find this particular unicorn. And the reason is because being a banker is a good job. It is a high-paying job normally. It is a career-defining moment because, you have step-ups after a certain interval of your career. And that's fine. And quite frankly, you're helping people. I want to buy a car loan. I want to issue a sukuk. I want to have easy payment process. It's a good business to be in. But you compare the level of passion, say for instance, being a banker with a passion of helping the community, and you start to realize that life is short, and no wonder people spend so much time and effort doing the community work and might not necessarily get well remunerated for it.
Right.
But the payback is not through ringgit and cents. The payback is in seeing actual people elevating their life from a stage where they were to a stage where they are at. Now that is the highest satisfaction that I could think of. But what is more satisfying than that is that to see these individuals who themselves have lifted them, have increased their station in life, then give back to their own community. So this cycle is so virtuous to a point where if you are part of that virtuous cycle, you are so privileged and you are so thankful that, in your own little small way, you are part of this journey.
Right.
And that virtuous cycle that we look at is something that we have encoded it. We have made it into a system at Yayasan Peneraju, and we are creating a slogan, so-called, called Virtuous Cycle of Value Creators, or VC Squared. And that's how we measure our impact to the community.
Right.
It's no longer dulu. We have two ways of doing it, which is rather straightforward and, in hindsight, pretty dumb. Number one is salary increment, peningkatan gaji. If before your gaji was 1,500 ringgit, you take our course, gaji 3,000, that means very good lah. That means you 100% increase. Okay. Another one is employment. Dulu you unemployed, now you're employed. So, we have reduced the unemployment number. It is so abstract to look at it that way, because if you are a chartered accountant and you work at Deloitte, for instance, or EY, and your salary is 4,500 or 5,000, you still makan gaji,
Yeah.
and you're still a corporate slave.
Yeah.
And I'm very familiar with the Big Four and any auditing firm. And while they like what they do, after a certain time, maybe 3 years, normally 3 years, that's where the creeping sense comes in.
Yeah.
They get frustrated and they want to leave. And being an auditor at a big firm or a small firm or whatever is kind of okay, but recently there was an article that says there's a chartered accountant who left an audit firm to start his own nasi goreng company,
right,
an ayam goreng company, and he is making about 1,000 to 2,000 ringgit net after minusing all cost.
Yeah,
I am telling you that person, I'm not too sure who that person is, a lady or a man, but that person, that is the value creator that we're looking at.
Right.
For every sense of the purpose, he is feeding his community. He is now a business owner. Whatever that he owns is capitalized, so he is also a capital owner.
Right.
And in due time, his business will grow and he will hire people. And now he's an economic multiplier.
Right.
That, my friend, is what we're looking at.
People create a hub.
A
human hub that creates
hub.
more. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, they're lucky to have you in their corner, actually. And you've described Peneraju as acting like a talent bank, right? That identifies, nurtures, and channels Bumiputra professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. What are the biggest obstacles you face in making that channeling effective and preventing leakage? Because you've mentioned some of it is just getting out there and making sure you reach the people. What other challenges and obstacles are there?
So right now we have a pool of 85,000 talents and it's growing. Hopefully we'll reach about 90,000 alumni by the year end. And next year we plan to enroll about 4,000 plus to 5,000. So we're going to reach a number of about 95,000 to 100,000.
Wow.
When we spoke with our minister in charge, Yang Mohammed Senator Datuk Sri Amir Hamzah, who is also the second finance minister, he was talking about building a cadre of talent coming out of Yayasan Peneraju that is fulfilling the needs of the nation by making sure that they are CFO, CEO ready for leading GLCs and large companies, able to be successful entrepreneurs and can raise funds in the millions, if not billions, and to be able to be community leaders and help the community at large by being what we call economic multipliers in the community or community leaders. If we are successful in building that kind of pool to make sure that the talent is being drawn out of this particular alumni pool of ours, then we have done our job.
Right.
And so far, we are going towards that trajectory. Of the 85,000 pool that we have about 1,000 people that meets that kind of qualifications.
Right.
For instance, the LTAT CEO, he is an alumni of Yayasan Peneraju. The founder of Pandai app, he is also an alumni of Yayasan Peneraju. And the story of Ellis, where she is a community leader in her kampung in Sabah, she also is from the talent pool.
Right.
So what we need now is to scale up that talent pool of people that can be leaders. So much so that we have a target of creating 10,000 Bumiputra leaders out of this 100,000 denominator base that we have over the next 5 years.
5 years?
Over the next 5 years. So because we earmark our progress through the Malaysia plans and in the 13th Malaysia plan on the RMK 13 from the years 2026 until 2030, we need to create 10,000 leaders out of that base of 100,000 talents.
Right.
So that's where to answer your question more directly, how do we ensure that that we can create those kind of talents is actually at the point of inception. When we take them in as talents in the beginning,
right,
we must know if they are ready to be change agents from the get-go. Now, while we understand that people change over time, and depending on where they are at the life stages, one thing is always constant: how are they interacting with their community? Because no matter where you are at your life stage, no matter where you are in your station in life, in economic terms, if you have no empathy, if you have no connection to your community and your people and your nation and your background and your family, you will not necessarily cultivate that kind of behavior over time.
So social responsibility.
By the way, if you have no social responsibility, that is fine. Actually, it's fine. It's your life, But that might mean that a place like Yayasan Peneraju may have to not opt for you as a talent, and we might need to opt for another talent that has a high social awareness. May not be necessarily be the responsibility, but a social awareness that is high. And that's where we use that particular marker in identifying talents coming in.
Right.
Because if that talent has high social responsibility from the get-go, in all likelihood, everything that talent does, i.e. getting training, getting educated, getting jobs, getting what, is all geared towards helping his or her community in the long run. And that's how we ensure that the talent pool that we have, that 100,000, that talent bank that we have, is actually filled with rich talents that can actually have the desire and want and need to help their own community. But when we look at the marker on identifying high social responsibility individuals, we look at their involvement in the community, the projects that they do, the stories that they tell, whether or not it is all about benefiting themselves or they're using this type of training or education in order for them to do something else, i.e. help their family, help their adik-adik, help their poor parents, help their elderly family members or whatever. If we talk about me, I want to get this degree because I believe I deserve it, I this, I that, most likely than not, you're not high in social responsibility. And the fifth most important thing is validation from the community. Because if you tend to do work for the community tends to vouch for you. And if you tend to you don't even have to shout out about it so much. We just ask around and we know that in a particular community, or this person has been helping out and this person is ready to lend a hand every now and then. Those kind of markers are being used in us identifying the talents before we start to enroll them in our programs.
That's so important. And it sounds like you have your job cut out for you.
Yeah.
And also, one of the issues that crops up whenever we speak about, improving talent in Malaysia is the fact that there are educational inequalities that we cannot turn a blind eye to, right? Like urban versus rural, east versus west, income disparities. It remains quite stubborn, and it's an issue that keeps seeming prevalent. What role should a foundation like Peneraju play in mitigating or accentuating those divides? I ask this because I'm sure one of the things people ask whenever you hear about a foundation like Yayasan Peneraju is it sad that it has to exist? Right? Why is it? Are we foundationally failing in terms of the education we're already giving that we need a foundation like this?
No, that's a very insightful question, Terry, and this is an excellent question. And I can tell you, I'm not buttering you up because I've been interviewed so many times. It's not often that we get these kind of questions. Number one, it is sad because if you have a systemic integrity in helping talents, you don't need an organization like Yayasan Peneraju. Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany tend to not have this kind of foundation to help their nationals.
Right.
They tend to have these kind of foundations to help other immigrants and through their diplomatic missions around the world, they get foreigners to come and study at their countries to actually help them understand a little bit better on how to improve their own economic station in life. But for us to do this, it is also an emblematic situation where we acknowledge that there is not just inequality in access to education, but the inequity in access to education. And the fact that we are having to do this now is not necessarily a bad thing because we have recognized that there is an inequity and inequality in access to education, but the remedy factor is there. The sad part is that Yayasan Peneraju is only for Bumiputras. And there's so many other communities that need help. The Indian community in particular need help. And the Chinese community. I'm not just talking about Chinese in the urban areas. Chinese in rural areas also need help. And then you start to wonder, not only is it sad that a foundation like Yayasan Peneraju has to exist, it's also sad that a foundation like this has to also segregate according to caste, race, and so on. But this is what we are left with since independence. And unfortunately or fortunately, this is how the social contract has been drawn up. And unfortunately, we have to do this in this way because this is how the country is. But to conclude this kind of viewpoint, it is important for us to note that we are working with the kind of best case scenario in the worst case circumstances.
Right.
And because of this, we work with what we have right now in the most efficient and the most cost affordable way.
Right.
And that's why Yayasan Peneraju is doing this, despite knowing that it's pretty sad that we have to exist in the first place.
Right. So ultimately, it would seem that while you're filling a gap that's currently there, the goal of foundations such as yourself would ultimately be to not be needed sometime in the future.
Yes.
Right? But while we strive to get there, this is why we need.
And I don't know how long it'll take for us to get there.
Yeah.
I hope it's within our lifetime.
I hope so too.
But yeah lah, you got to start somewhere, right?
That's why conversations like this need to happen actually, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And we must never lose sight. And that's why your question is very insightful, because your question touches on the point of the why. Why do we need to exist? Not how are we existing and how are we deploying the programs. Itu semua any rational CEO can answer. But the question of why, that is what we look at for our statesmen and our politicians and our leaders, because they need to take this political discourse at a higher level and talk about how our society must strive for.
Yeah.
If we can't have that aspirational vision intact, it's hard for us to keep on going with our day-to-day business.
Right.
And I think today we're looking at statespeople or statesmen and stateswomen that they should aspire to be inspirational as well, because Malaysians really do look up to them to look for inspiration. So I think if we have more people like you asking these kind of thoughtful questions, I think we're off to a better future lah.
Right.
But I think discourses like this must be had in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great that we can begin somewhere, right? Now, many reformers advocate for a stronger collaboration between public, private, and civil society in talent development. You've already begun collaborating with Peneraju, Equinas to build an ecosystem, which is like a pipeline almost to help someone go through the process. What structural or cultural barriers still prevent a unified Bumiputra entrepreneurship or talent ecosystem? You're deep in it. What do you see?
It actually starts in the unit household or the family household.
Right.
People that you trust your whole life, people like your parents, are now cautioning you, warning you, telling you that this is a very risky enterprise to go after. Better you just makan gaji and work as a salaried employee for the rest of your life. Remember this uncle or that auntie that started business, they are now in ruins because their business failed.
Right.
You start to wonder, you had a very good idea on what business you want to pursue. You now have a chartered status, you're ready to go big on entrepreneurship, but the very people that you trust your whole life is now cautioning you against it. How many of these talents are ready to go against their parents and do it no matter what? I'm telling you, not many.
Right.
And that unit
not
household,
always the case, but not many.
Not always the case,
right.
But I mean, there's no statistics about this, but let's guess 9 out of 10 would probably listen and heed to what the parents are trying to say.
Right, based on what you've heard.
Yeah. Only one dares to dream and says, "Mak, terima kasih. I know you are concerned for me, but I'm still doing it."
Right.
1 in 10 maybe. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is, if the discouragement to become economic multipliers and value creators is actually being discouraged and highly unappreciated at the home economics unit, you're creating a class of Bumiputra talents that is afraid and highly discouraged to become one, i.e. to become a value creator. And that is so discouraging, because Malaysia needs more entrepreneurs, Malaysia needs more enterprises, and Malaysia needs more investors in order for us to lift ourselves from the quagmire that we are today, which is a middling income country. We have to raise up our status in life and become a true tiger of Asia. But we can't do that if we don't have enough, enterprise.
Right.
And it's sad, because 70% of Malaysians are Bumiputra.
Yeah.
So if we actually help the Bumiputra class and lift them up, not just by being professionals,
right,
but become entrepreneurs, become social enterprises or social entrepreneurs, I think until and unless we do that, we're gonna be stuck here forever.
Right.
And I'm not asking you to bet your house on the business. There are ways to do enterprises and to do entrepreneurship at a safe scale.
Right.
You don't have to bet your whole life savings on starting your next business venture. There are ways to do it, and you can mitigate the risks involved.
Right.
But to be highly discouraged just because you want to start a business is not the right way to do things.
Right. Again, that's why it's so important to have Yayasan Peneraju, because you almost give people permission, like to let them know that it's okay. What you're thinking is okay, right? Now, looking back on your journey from media and finance to leading now Yayasan Peneraju, right? What's the one belief that has stayed constant through every role that you've held? You've done a lot in your life, and you're still doing a lot right now. It feels like you've got more hours in a day than the rest of us. So what would that be, that one belief that has stayed constant through the roles that you've held?
I'm not the smartest person in the room. That's the constant belief.
Interesting. You believe that?
I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. I talk a lot. I may be
in this room, you might be the
in any room. I'm most. I mean, only like Rafizi probably, or I mean, Hamza would talk more than me. But I talk a lot doesn't mean I know a lot. My constant belief is that there are always smarter people than me, and I lean on them. And anybody who has worked with me, who has shared an office with me, would agree that I let them do what they do best. And the best way to lead actually is to give them all the support they need. Then the reason I do this is because wherever I go, I'm always the newbie in that group. And for instance, if I started my career, I started my career before banking because my grades weren't that great. I actually worked in politics. I was the first political secretary to Nur Izzah when she first won.
What?
In 2008. Yeah,
right.
People know this.
I didn't know
that. She just won. She didn't expect to win. She won.
Wow.
And she started scrambling, and she's like, "Oh my God, now what do I do?" Right? I mean, I contested, and and in 2008, I'm a fresh MP, 27 years old. What do I do now? So I was actually working with her for about a year before I joined Cap and then CIMB.
It sounds like you almost always strive to be the person who is, like, you keep looking for new situations so that you are learning more in every room that you enter.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I feel that there is always an opportunity for me to learn new things. You're right, Terry. But when I joined the political office on Riza, I'm the newbie there. She is the daughter of a political luminary in Malaysia. So it's always more to learn from her. Then I joined Islam Banking in Cap, a lot more to learn. Then I joined CMB, a lot more to learn. Then I joined BFM. I've never done broadcast ever in my life, never trained in it, never thought of it, never dreamt about it. I didn't want to be a journalist. It was never part of my top 10 list, right? But we learn. So my colleagues, your colleagues, Melissa Idris, Shirakutan, Kusu Chuang, Julian Ng, Noel Lim, they're all there to teach me. Now I have ideas, and I have a particular strong belief, and I want to share it. But they were coaching me when I was in BFM, and then I joined Astro. Same thing. So I'm Sulaiman, who is now with RTM. Ashwa Ismail, who's now leading Astrawani. They were coaching me, and again, I have strong ideas, strong beliefs, but they were coaching me. And now at Yayasan Peneraju, I have a lot more colleagues that have done this for the longest of time, and they know what to do. They just need the right support. So I'm there to, number one, get out of the way because they can execute the job better than me, and number two, empower them. So basically, I ask them what you need. You need more support. In what way? You need more staff. You need more a clearance from the ministry. You need more marketing. What do you need? So that constant belief of I'm never the smartest person in the room is the constant.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're always the person who learns and teaches at the same time.
Yeah, so because if you dah tahu semua, tak payahlah belajar. You dah tahu semua. Right? So I think if a person, just before coming here, I had a breakfast with my colleague Najib Aruf. It's hilarious because he just met this fantastic professor in Oxford or whatever, and everybody knows this particular professor. When this guy introduces himself to Najib, he said, my name is Professor whatever. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with my work. I am this. Where are you from? And the inquisitiveness is there. Now Najib is flabbergasted and aghast, like the whole world knows you, and you're still identifying yourself as a humble person, and you want to know more about me, and you are trying to tell me, oh, this is what you do, but the whole world knows what this guy does, right? That level of humility needs to be expounded upon, because if you tell me that, oh, I am this famous singer, and then you just sit down, you never assume people know you, right? It's like, oh, how old are you? Oh, take a guess. And then somebody guesses an age that is 10 years older than your real age, then you marah, right? So never go with the assumption. Always go with the notion that you are there to learn, and most importantly, you while you may know things, you may not necessarily know things more than the other person. And I think that's the concern that I have.
We come now to the rapid fire questions part of this. Whatever comes to mind is the answer we accept.
Okay.
And of course, just because this is your answer today doesn't mean this is going to be your same answer tomorrow. It could change tomorrow.
Okay.
This is just how you are feeling today, okay?
This rapid fire.
All right, here we go. One word that describes your leadership style.
Get it? Fail already.
But that better not be the answer.
No. Okay. Restart. Okay.
One word that describes your leadership style.
Bold.
The most overused buzzword in Malaysian corporate cities, or circles rather, Malaysian corporate circles right now.
AI.
You're so right. Coffee order on a stressful morning.
Black.
Okay.
Stressful morning. Calm morning latte. Stressful morning black. Just give me black. I just
got it.
need to down it.
One book that has completely changed how you think about leadership.
Algebra of Happiness by Professor Scott Galloway.
Okay, I don't know this book. Maybe I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but tell us about this book.
Okay, first of all, Scott Galloway is this NY Houston professor of business. He is a multimillionaire. He started a few firms back in Silicon Valley, and exited most of it. He's now an a philanthropist and an investor and a lecturer.
Okay.
He has written a few books, but the one that really struck me the most is The Algebra of Happiness, because he quantified subjectivity. He gave us a mathematical model to be happy.
Wow.
I won't tell you what is it. You have to get the book and buy it. It's everywhere. It's at whatever Kinokuniya or whatever.
For happiness.
There is an equation for happiness, and this he calls it the algebra of happiness.
Okay.
And it was a pretty tough time for me. I just got out of a long marriage. I was in marriage for 18 years, and we had to. There was no way forward. We terminated it. So it was a very rough patch of my life at that point in time, and I wanted to see how I can be happy, right? And that book actually helped me out in terms of trying to sort out how I can be happy.
Right.
So that question of yours, the rapid fire question, is about that. It quantified the subjectivity of what it takes to be happy.
Right. The book is The Algebra of Happiness by
Scott Galloway.
Got it. All right. I'm going to make a note of it right now.
Yeah, you should.
Bring the calculator with me as I read that book. Okay. A single trait you think defines the Malaysian spirit?
Togetherness.
Nice. And the best advice you've ever received in your career?
If you're the idiot in the room, the only way left is up.
Oh. Wow. I love that. Okay. And now the final question we have for you.
Guess who told me this?
Oh, who?
Nuriza.
Nuriza. Right.
Stranger. If you are the idiot in the room, the only way is up.
Wow.
And she told me this when I was 24 years old,
That's amazing. So 2 years ago lah.
2 years ago, yes, my friend. Sama-sama. Yeah, we still had hair. Yes.
Yeah, people might confuse us in this interview. Who's the interviewer and who's the interviewee? Okay. Final question that we ask all of our guests is our signature question, which is, if you had the opportunity to make one change as Prime Minister of Malaysia for a day, not that the change would be for a day, you're Prime Minister for a day, what would it be and why?
Address urban poverty, because urban poor is the least resourced community in the country. If you talk about rural poor, monetary wise, they're poor, but they have land, they have resources, they have, plants, vegetables, ulam to makan. They can steal somebody's chicken, egg, and they can feed themselves. Urban poor, if you have no money, most of the time, game over.
Right.
So if I was the prime minister for a day, I would address urban poverty.
Oh.
And by the way, if you look at the UN research, the malnutrition for urban poor children, stunting growth is the highest actually. Stunted growth amongst children in Malaysia is the highest amongst urban poor.
Ibrahim Sani, you're the only person we interview who will end a conversation or an interview with starting something new to talk about. It feels like you're beginning a whole new conversation now. Right?
Terms of podcast, and we're not talking about urban poor.
Right? We thought we were going to wrap it up here, which we still have to. But now you're just starting a whole new issue that it feels like we need to discuss further. Maybe the next time we have you back.
Maybe.
Okay. Thank you so much to CEO of Yayasan Peneraju.
Thank you very much for inviting me over, Terry. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, man. And we'll see you in the next episode of Life Confessions.